Hey, what's going on, everybody? I got the Tello podcast today, episode 4. I'm in a new location today, new camera today. It's not very great quality, but I'm just trying to get it out for y'all, get out for the viewers. Today, I'm in a new location, as I said. I'm in my frat house. I joined a fraternity. I joined Theta Chi. I'm a member of Theta Chi at the University of Idaho. I loved it so far. It's been great. The rush experience was amazing. I'm rooming with a good man. His name is Brian. That flag up there, that's his flag. It's a Kendrick Lamar flag, and I'm excited to do all this and whatnot. But let's get into this podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the NFL preseason. First week just ended this weekend, and I had a lot of enjoyment to it. And there's a couple of notes that I wrote down when I was watching these games, and I didn't get to every game, so I looked into more, watched the highlights, whatnot, watched the recaps, and so today we're going to be starting with big thing that I think I saw in the game was the Panthers and the Commanders. The Panthers QB battle is one of the biggest questions I've seen so far. Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold? In my opinion, Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback. The first overall pick in 2018, and Sam Darnold's the third pick. Both on new teams, obviously. The Browns picking Baker Mayfield and Darnold being a Jet originally. Both of the Panthers. And Sam Darnold last year was atrocious. He was terrible to watch. I did not enjoy watching him. It was not good. And then Baker Mayfield, obviously, been a little bit of a disappointment, but he did kind of turn around the Cleveland Browns team, as they were 1-15 the year before, 0-16 the year before that. But I mean, after seeing that game, I mean, both of them they did okay. I mean, Sam Darnold threw a touchdown pass. Baker did okay. I still think Baker would be the starter at the moment. But we'll have to see going into the next 2 weeks of the preseason, 3 weeks of practice, whatnot. But with Sam Darnold, how he played last year as a starter at Carolina, I mean, they did start 3-0 last season, but then it went downhill there. Then they ended up snagging a top 10 pick and got, I believe, Charles Cross. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's Charles Cross. Baker Mayfield probably will be the starter coming into week 1 of the regular season. And then on the other side, we got the Washington Commanders. Carson Wentz get some success on that field. Didn't do too awful. I mean, I believe 10 for 13 in the time that he was in the game. But starting spot really isn't secured. You look at how Sam Howell played in that game. He had a rushing touchdown, and he kind of didn't show. He didn't do awful. He showed signs of knowing how to be a professional quarterback, and showed signs of being able to ball. And I mean, I get it. It was in the preseason. It is against the Panthers' backup defensive team, but still, Sam Howell's proving a little bit, and we'll see how that one goes. But I definitely think Carson Wentz, with the success he had in that first week, in the first couple drives, that he is still going to be the starter. And I mean, I think he had a decent year in Indianapolis last year. A lot of people overlooked how he did, but that's all I really got to say about Carson Wentz, Sam Howell. But let me just turn my fan down a little bit. But another thing about Washington, Antonio Gibson, last year 5 fumbles in the first 10 games of the season. Not something you always want to see from a running back, especially a running back of his caliber. Second snap, fumbled the ball, and that's not what you want to see from Antonio Gibson. A guy who can make game-deciding factors, game-deciding plays, everything like that. You don't want a guy like that giving the ball up so easily, and so he's gonna have to work on his ball security, because going into the season, if he keeps on doing that, guys like, I believe, Brian Robinson, who is on the Washington Commanders, could possibly get more snaps. J.D. McKissick could get more snaps. So I think he's got to clean that up. Another game was the Chiefs and Bears. I don't have too much to say about the Bears, other than they did look They look okay, looked iffy sometimes. Justin Fields and Darnell Mooney need to find that connection even more, because they had a nice 26-yard reception in the game. But the Chiefs' D-line looked very impressive with their new rookie. I forgot his name. I'm gonna be honest. I don't fully remember his name. Let me pull it up right here. I think it's George Karlaftis. Yeah, George Karlaftis. George Karlaftis did kind of show some pressure. Chris Jones, Frank Clark, and then even backups like Taylor Stallworth, Kellen Saunders were getting into the backfield. So I think their defensive line, after last season being 29th in the league for sacks, which is not something you want to see from a team that high of caliber, and the Kansas City Chiefs, seeing their defensive line improve this year is something big. I think something big. It's definitely some position for them to look out for in the future. I think the Chiefs, if they get that improved defensive line and the added pressure, will take kind of the load off of the back seven or the back eight, depending on which coverage they're running, which formation they're running. Obviously, the Chiefs ended up losing that game 19-14, and the Panthers ended up beating Washington 23-21. We'll go on to Buffalo versus Indianapolis, 27-24. I don't really have much to say about this game for the Bills, as they didn't start any of their starters. Case Keenum was 11 of 18, throwing in 2 interceptions. So that's not something you want to see from a guy like Case Keenum, who can be on a team, be a backup, not a starter. Last time we saw him as a starter, he was in Minnesota. And then Matt Barkley did a little bit better, but he did throw a pick. But he did lead the Bills to a comeback. One guy I need to talk about from the Bills is Khalil Shakir, 5th-round pick out of Boise State. I was high on him. I mean, I'm not a Boise State fan, even though I was from the area. But I think that Khalil Shakir is amazing. He's a great player. And his debut was very impressive. I mean, 5 targets, 5 catches. Did not drop a single thing. Every target his way was caught. 92 yards. That is almost 20 yards per target. That is impressive. What's up? What are you doing?
Nice.
I'm recording my podcast. You're good. No, you're good. You can get in here. You want to talk? You got anything about the NFL so far?
Dude, I don't know shit about the NFL, bro. Hey, man, I think it's doing good.
Okay. All right, see ya. That's just one of the guys in the house. We like to keep it unedited, keep it real out here. So I'm gonna keep that in there. But the Colts, I think the Colts defense looked really good. They had 5 takeaways, which is something they excelled at last year. With the Colts having 33 takeaways. Yes, second in the league last year. 4 takeaways, 5 in 1 preseason game. Although it is preseason, it's still very impressive. Going on, next game, Pittsburgh Steelers, Seattle Seahawks. The Pittsburgh Steelers ended up winning 32-25 against Seattle. And one thing I will say the most about Pittsburgh is the triple quarterback system right now. Not knowing who's the starter, all 3 of them did pretty well. I'd say Trubisky looked a little impressive. He's definitely the favorite, but Kenny Pickett did really good in his first NFL game. Orchestrated a game-winning drive, touchdown pass to Tyler Vaughn's, 3 seconds left. That's something you love to see, especially when your defense goes and does something for you, like when they forced the fumble against Drew Lock. We'll get to that later. And then Mason Rudolph, he came in, he did some pretty good stuff, made a great throw. Trubisky 4 for 7, 63 yards and a touchdown. Mason Rudolph went 9 for 15, 93 yards, and an amazing throw to George Pickens, who I think impressed, especially off of that one catch alone, nonetheless. Tapping both feet in, not having very much room, that was very impressive. I think that was a great catch. And, I mean, obviously they won by a touchdown, even though that wasn't a game-winning touchdown. It led to them winning the game, man. Mark Robinson, a rookie, strip sack on Drew Lock after Pickett turned the ball over in the 4th as well on a 4th down sack. We got the ball back. He got the ball back for his quarterback, and his quarterback made up for it, and that stuff you like to see from a quarterback. So that's why I think Pickett really impressed. But as for the Seahawks, Drew Lock was playing all right. He was kind of outplaying Smith the second week in a row, but then wasn't as decisive in that game. Because when he had short field, game was tied, trying to make the game-winning drive, Drew Lock fumbles, and then gives it because of an unblocked defender, and that ends up being the giving up to the game-winning drive. Although he was 10 for 14, 114 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion before that, so he did pretty well other than that. But that all came against the Steelers' backups, where Smith faced starters, who Locke did not. Locke has not really gotten to be able to see any of the starters for the Steelers. Against the Steelers, he has not been really able to go with the ones, and I'm really trying to see when the Seahawks will give Locke his chance, when they will give him his first team reps, because it's been the first 2.5 weeks Geno Smith's gotten 100% of those. And yeah, on to my next notes. Dameon Pierce. Now, Dameon Pierce is on the Texans. I'm going to skip the Dolphins game. Dolphins won 26-24 because not very many highly known guys played in the I would say Lyndon Bowen Jr. was constantly making plays as a receiver and a returner, so he was doing pretty well. And yeah, so Dameon Pierce, Houston Texans running back, kind of was the spark for that team. They were kind of struggling as Davis Mills went 3 for 3 with 14 yards, but they struggled to pick up a first down in his 2 series of action. And they were going very conservative plays. They were not really trying to push the ball, and they were majority runs. And then Dameon Pierce enters his game, and he flashed his explosiveness. He was doing great. He rushed for 49 yards and 5 carries. On his first carry of the game, he broke it for 20, which sparked their first touchdown drive, which eventually helped them win the game 17-13 against New Orleans. And speaking of New Orleans, that's my team, obviously. As you may know, if you've watched the previous episodes, they are my team. But Andy Dalton showed why he's a pretty good backup quarterback, why the Saints wanted to get him as a backup. And although Jameis Winston's coming back from injury, so maybe Dalton might have to start, he showed why he's a good backup to have. I mean, he went 5 for 5 with a touchdown to Dwayne Washington, who's really, really impressed me over the past year. And I think he could have a chance being in that running back room, being a third string right behind Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, obviously. But Ian Book was also showed that he is not an impressive backup, though. Ian Book had a terrible game, not so good. But I mean, granted, they didn't have as many people as they did, but he does need to step it up if he wants to stay in an NFL roster. Excuse me. We got to see Chris Olave play, but Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, no, that we didn't get to see them be in the Saints uniforms. But Ian Book had 15 for 22, 121 yards, 5 sacks, and an interception. 2 turnovers as well led to 10 points of the Texans. Take those away, it's a 7-13 win for the New Orleans Saints, and maybe even more for the New Orleans Saints. And his potential touchdown fell incomplete, and it looked like a drop from Traquan Smith, who has been able to not be able to pick and catch. But yeah. The defense, though, however, I'm very happy about how the defense has been playing. Great defensive play. I think they've got a very underrated defense, a top defense in the league, if you ask me. Maybe a little bit of Saints bias coming to me, but I don't agree with calling it Saints bias because they are a very impressive defense. Paulson Adebo in his second year this year had a great rookie season, I think. The Saints defense's total had 3 picks, and that's something very, very much you like to see. With Chase Hansen getting one of them, he's been very impressive throughout camp. Although they did blow a coverage to end up to help the Texans take the lead in the final minutes. That's something you need to fix, those little iffy ones. But yeah, that's what I got to say about that. And then the next game I got Denver Broncos won 17-7. I don't really got much to say about the Broncos. They did not do too much, as their right tackle Calvin Anderson was the only starter that played in the game. They had a lot of boos, 2 first downs, and only 29 yards in those 3 possessions in the first quarter. But they did end up pushing the ball downfield, with Josh Johnson throwing 172 yards, 2 touchdown passes and a half, including a 24-yard touchdown to Kendall Hinton, the guy who played emergency quarterback then when the Broncos played the Saints during that COVID year, which I think actually was last year. It might have been last year, actually. Yeah, it was. But the Cowboys is the team I really got to talk about here. Very undisciplined. Mike McCarthy at the end of the year last season said his number 1 focus is going to be forward penalties, as they were the NFL leaders in penalties last season, 127 in a year. If that's what they were really focusing on, they did a pretty bad job at it, as they had 17 accepted penalties. That's the most by any team so far in the preseason. Excuse me. 129 yards, that is not something you want to see. And then, in the first half, 9-11 for 65 yards. First round pick Tyler Smith, who had 16 penalties last year at Tulsa. He's an offensive lineman. He had holding calls on him twice. Most of the regulars did not play versus Denver. However, when the coach's number one focus is to improve this, when it is Mike McCarthy's biggest improvement that he wants, that's not something you want to see in the very first game out of the off season into your preseason. Whoever you're playing, it just doesn't show anything good. And then the next game, I'm going to skip over this one, but the Rams beat the Chargers 29-22. Not very many starters played. So there's not really much for me to talk about there. The next game I've got here is the Falcons-Lions, another one like that. Not very many people. We got to see Desmond Ridder get some snaps. And he's not really close to Mariota. Mariota's the starter. He 10 for 22, so not something you want to see from that wise. But he did have 2 touchdowns, 103 yards, and rushed 6 times for 59 yards. 162 total yards, 2 touchdowns, but the completion percentage is not what you want to see. The numbers don't show it as people would say on that. He looks more on point than he did earlier in the season during practice, and they were a little deflated because his receivers had a ton of drops. There were a couple passes that were iffy, but an interception that did get overturned because of a penalty, and another one almost picked. It's a good first step though. Who he's going to grow, and then the Lions. The Lions showed potential with their starters. Jared Goff opening touchdown drive, 9-yard run up the middle to DeAndre Swift. Goff went 3 for 4, 47 yards, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, 29 yards off of 2 catches. He's going to be a stud this year. I'm really hoping to see him do well because I think he is going to be very good. Next game is Cleveland Browns, Jacksonville Jaguars. Cleveland Browns, 24-13, won the game. But Deshaun Watson, his first game back in how many years? 2 years. Was nothing but a joke. 1 for 5, 7 yards. And, I mean, after being so ready to come back and play, signing that big old contract, and then going 1 for 5 against the Jacksonville Jaguars in the preseason, that is not something you want to see if you're a Cleveland fan. Not something at all. They did not generate a single first down as him at quarterback. And to make things worse, their starting center got carted off the field, Nick Harris, because of a knee injury. But what happened did not overshadow anything Watson did on the field, because he was terrible. He did apologize to the woman who accused him. Truly sorry, which, I mean, you can say that, but is he really meaning it? Because he did it. We'll see how his suspension holds up. Next team, Jacksonville. They looked somewhat functional. That's really all I got to say about that. Sorry. New York Jets, Eagles. Next team, the Jets. They got a scare with Zach Wilson going down, getting hurt with a knee injury. I believe they said 2 to 4 weeks, so they lucked out on that one. It could have been a year, it could have been the ACL, but it's 2 to 4 weeks, I believe. That's what I read. It's okay. He'll be okay. I think the Jets, if they did lose him for the season, would be screwed. But they didn't lose him for the season. But yeah, the Eagles. Eagles really impressed me. Jalen Hurts was 6 for 6, 80 yards, and a touchdown to Dallas Goedert. But however, there was a play where Jalen Hurts almost could have gotten hurt when Quincy Williams cheap shot at him out of bounds, about 2 yards out of bounds. Hurts was okay, so that's fine. He kind of took it like a champ. But if I were an Eagles fan, I'd be very excited because there was a lot of plays that Hurts made that he could just kind of adjust to and adapt to depending on what the defense showed him. But I think the Eagles team is going to be very good. I said it 5 months ago in the first episode. I'm sorry for coughing so much. Something stuck in my throat. That they are going to be good. They're going to be surprising. And they're going to be a team to look out for. All right. There is not really much I have to say about the Cardinals-Bengals. Cardinals won 36-23. And the Packers-Niners, not much I really want to say. The Niners won 28-21. Other than that, I will talk about Jordan Love failing a little bit more. Trey Lance actually showing very good signs. Trey Lance played in 11 snaps, and he showed potential. 4 for 5, 92 yards with that 77-yard touchdown. And, I mean, he's a big boomer bust guy that you can see in the league. But, yeah, that's what I got to say about that game. The Giants beat the Patriots 23-21, not much to say about that. And the Ravens won 23-10 against Tennessee. Those are all the preseason games. I think that the most impressive team was probably the Eagles. I think the Eagles will be a handful for the Cowboys this year. And my biggest thing is the Panthers QB battle. I'm a Saints fan, so I really don't like the Panthers. I really don't care. But at the end of the day, I think that's going to be the closest thing and the thing that's looked at more. All right, so my predictions for the NFL season this year, I think that I've got some predictions for this. AFC leader, I think, is going to be the Bills. Bills are probably going to be the best team in the league, with the Chiefs right behind them because the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Indianapolis will probably win the division, either them or Tennessee. I'm leaning more Indianapolis, just because of the way their team's a lot good. They got a bit older. They got older at quarterback, but Matt Ryan's still not. He's still a decent quarterback. He's still a guy you can put on the field 17 games a year and put up some stats. And their defense is incredible. And then in the AFC West, my favorite division to look at, as I said, I think the Chiefs will probably still win it. Don't be surprised if all 4 teams make the playoffs. I could see it happening because the Raiders have a great squad. I went 10-7 last year and only got better. The Chargers went 9-8, I believe. Kind of blew their season, but their squad got even better. Their defense is incredible with the additions like Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson. They're going to be a team to look out for. I'm going to guarantee you that. Be ready to watch them if they make the Super Bowl. And then the Broncos country. Let's ride. Russell Wilson on the squad now just makes that team so much instantly better. They were already a good team to begin with. They just didn't have a quarterback. 7-10 last year. And then the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Even though losing Tyreek Hill's going to be terrible, Juju's going to finally get wide receiver 1 snaps from a quarterback that can throw. I think he's going to be having a bounce back impressive type season. But yeah, at the end of the day, I would say Bills 1, Chiefs 2. And then in the AFC North, the Bengals 3, Colts 4, Chargers 5, Raiders 6, Broncos 7. And I know that sounds a little biased towards the AFC West. I'm not even an AFC West fan, but I still think all 4 teams will make the playoffs. NFC, I think the best team in the NFC, unfortunately, might be the Rams again. As I am a Saints fan, I don't like the Rams because we did get kind of screwed over by the Rams in 2019. Second best team in that conference would probably be the Buccaneers. I hate to say that as well because I'm a Saints fan again. Third, I would probably have to say the Packers. Packers are still, even though Rodgers doesn't have his QB, his guys, he's still Rodgers. Rodgers will find a way. And I mean, I think Christian Walker, I think is his name, George Watkins, something like that, from North Dakota State. He'll be a good addition as a rookie. and I think the Packers will stay. They're here to stay. What's up, Brian?
Yo, so hey, funny guy's here.
Yeah, no, this is yours. I'm just using it for now.
Oh, no,
But
you're good, man. No worries.
yeah, I'm just. You got anything to say for my podcast? You want to tell them anything?
Watch more soccer. That's it, bro. That's all I gotta say.
You heard it here first. You heard it here. Just watch more soccer. But yeah, I think the Packers have a good squad. The defense didn't really change much. They did lose their wide receivers, but and then the 4th seed I think is going to be the Eagles. I think they will win the NFC East over the Cowboys. The Cowboys are not, and they are good, but I don't think they're going to be as impressive as last season. They do have a very easy schedule, however. And then wild card teams. I think the wild card teams in this year. I will say this now, honorable mention, I will give it to the Vikings. I don't see them making the playoffs, but I see them having a chance. Very high chance. I may change that looking at it. I think the Cowboys will be in there. I don't think they'll be 5. I think the Niners will be 5. The Cowboys will be 7, and the Saints will be 6. And you can ask me, oh, are you saying that because I'm a Saints fan? I don't think so. I think I'm saying that because the Saints have a good roster that got better with Jameis coming back. I mean, they went 9-8 with Taysom Hill at quarterback, and their roster got even better. That's my input on the Saints. And people who don't believe me, you just really got to look into it. Look at what the Saints have in their team. Look at the chemistry they've got. Dennis Allen's got so much chemistry with the defense, and now he's the head coach. They're going to be a team to look out for, a team that's slept on. Now, coming on to this, I think the Super Bowl will be the Bills versus the, I hate to say it, but I think it might be Bills-Bucks. I'm really hoping it's not Bills-Bucks. I'm really hoping it's someone like Bills, Niners, or like Bills. Obviously, Bills-Saints, but I don't see the Saints making the Super Bowl. They can, but I don't think they will. But I would give that to the Bills no matter who they play. I think the Bills are the best team in the league, best roster, and they will win a Super Bowl this year. They will win a Super Bowl this year, and I guarantee you that. I can't guarantee you, but I'm really hoping for it. But since we are done with that, I'm going to go on to a new segment. It's going to be MLB. We're going to go back to the MLB. We just did that last week. Obviously, between the time that I've been here, there has been a huge change in the MLB, an 80-game suspension for Fernando Tatis Jr. for PEDs. We've seen multiple excuses, on and on and on, muscle relaxer, ringworm, whatnot. And, I mean, at the end of the day, I think you just got to be smarter of what you're doing, pay attention to what's going on, or if you're just taking PEDs, don't take PEDs. It's kind of a joke how many times he's disappointed that program, that club, because Fernando Tatis is a superstar ball player, and he's a guy that you want on the field every single game, and now he's not going to be able to play this season at all, I believe, if you look at if you do the math. It's kind of laughable. It's kind of disappointing to see that from your star shortstop, especially when you go out in the trade deadline and go get guys like Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Josh Hader. Although Josh Hader has been a little bit of a decline. Brandon Drury, you think of it, that infield is now that would have been Josh Bell, Cronenworth, Fernando Tatis, Brandon Drury, and then you would have had not Brandon Drury. Brandon Drury is second base, yeah. Manny Machado, how can I forget about Machado? And then Profar in left, Grisham in center, and Soto in right. And then behind the plate, you either have Jorge Alfaro or Austin Nola, and then DH you could have a guy like Cronenworth, or maybe even put Drury at DH and have Cronenworth at second because Cronenworth's more natural at second base. But now you got a guy like Song Kim. I'm not gonna say his whole name because I don't really know how to say it. But I think Drury, or you could put Drury at second and have Cronenworth at short. But Fernando Tatis just excels that lineup a ton more, and seeing him out is not what you want to see as that type of guy. But yeah, that's what I got to say about Tatis. Big things about the MLB is I want to talk about Shohei Ohtani for a bit. He's not having as good of a season as he had last year, but he's still having an incredible season. He's on pace for 8.1 WAR, which is just one tick below his MVP winning 9.0 WAR mark. And the fact that he won 9.0 and as an MVP, and he's 8.1, and he's having a down year compared to last year, just kind of shows something about how he's such a good athlete, such a good baseball player. But his production did change this year. His pitching Ohtani has surpassed hitting Ohtani. Hitting Ohtani is around like 25 homers, I think 24, 26. But the pitcher, Shohei Ohtani, 2.69 ERA, 1.06 WHIP, 117 innings pitched, 28 walks done, 165 strikeouts. That is incredible. He's putting up Cy Young numbers every time he steps on the mound. And to be honest, if there weren't guys like Dylan Cease and Justin Verlander, Shohei would be my Cy Young pick, and Shane McClanahan. But he brought out a new pitch. He used a sinking two-seam, and that's not something you want to see from a guy who already throws 5 pitches really well. He averaged 97.3 miles per hour. That is insane. And his top was 98.1, so that just shows how consistent he is with speed. And I mean, yes, they weren't great. As this says, 4 of them were balls, 1 was a swing and a miss, and 1 was a ground out. The velocity and movement gives it promise, and you got to look at it. Yeah, so those are my 2 big things about the MLB for the past week. I think last episode we never got to it. I'm going to go into the MLB playoffs as it is coming very close. And we're seeing teams trend up, trend down, as we just talked about in the last episodes, with like the Mariners and whatnot. But we're going to go into it. There is 6 teams in each conference now, as that is a rule change that happened this year. And we're going to start off with the AL. I think the AL has high potential for a World Series champ. A lot of these teams are very good. And I only really see 3 teams from the NL winning it, but I could see 4 or 5 from the AL winning it. And first, I'm gonna go with Astros. They've just been on fire. They've just been good, and especially the Yankees lost the last 11 to 13. I'm gonna drop them down to 2, where they deserve to be. They're still way ahead of everybody else in their division, but they just aren't the Yankees at the beginning of the year that they were. Third is going to be the Minnesota Twins. I think they're the best team in that division. I mean, the Guardians are kind of fighting with them, but I do think the Twins still have a better team, better squad that will end up legging it out and winning that division. And then first wild card, I got the Seattle Mariners. I think they're the best out of the 3 wild card teams that I put on here. I think, and the honorable mentions. I just think in general they got a great squad together, and they're really starting to pick it up again. And don't be surprised if this team makes a deep run into the playoffs, because I can see it happening. And the second wild card is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays. Their offense should be the best offense in the league. It's not always the best offense in the league, but it has the capabilities to. Their pitching needs a little bit of stepping up from guys like Yusei Kikuchi, Jose Barrios, Kevin Gausman's doing good all year. Alek Manoah's been doing good all year, and then Jordan Romano, he's been getting quite a bit of saves. But you just kind of sometimes want to see more out of pitchers, and that's what the Toronto Blue Jays would want. And the last spot, I'm going to give this to the Baltimore Orioles, actually. They've been very impressive despite giving up guys like Trey Mancini to the Astros, Jorge Lopez to the Twins. I think that the Orioles still have a good enough roster right now, a young roster to win enough games to get in there and sneak ahead of the Rays, ahead of the Guardians, who I do think are the 2 honorable mentions I put up on here. And the Orioles are just they're not that good, but they're good enough to make the wild card. And going into the National League, I think we all know who number 1 is. It's going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're the best team in baseball right now. I think we all knew this was going to happen eventually, even though the Yankees have always been the best team in baseball this season. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. They've got an all-star lineup. The worst person on their lineup is Gavin Lux, and Gavin Lux is still a pretty decent ball player. Number 2, I've got the New York Mets. Biggest thing I got to say about them is pitching is incredible. Pitching. That's what they are. And they've got a good offense behind it. not much to say about the Mets, except Edwin Diaz is winning reliever of the year. Cardinals in third. Another guy that I think could win reliever of the year, Ryan Helsley. Cardinals, another thing, big pitching. They've got a good offense. They did get rid of Harrison Bader to the Yankees. Not something that you always, they've got a good enough lineup. Harrison Bader, I think, might have been on a little bit of a downer year compared to last year, but he's known for his fielding. Traded him away. I still think they leg it out against the Brewers. They end up winning that division, and I don't think the Brewers even make the playoffs. First wildcard team, I've got Atlanta, the World Series defending World Series champs. It's just a shame they're in the same division as the Mets because they also are a very, very good team and a team that can have the capability to win games in October, as they showed last year. They won games in October when they needed to. Second wild card spot, I got this going to the San Diego Padres. Despite not having Tatis for the rest of their season because of his foolish acts, they're still a pretty dang good ball club. They went 79 and 83, I believe, last year, which is very underwhelming for the Padres, and they've got about 60-something wins right now. Another thing is that another team that it's a shame they're in the same division as the Dodgers because they would be winning a division if they were in the NL Central or something like that. But they're just a good enough team, a great offense. Their pitching is pretty good. That there should be no way they don't make the play. They do. There should be no way that they end up not making the playoffs. And then last in the wild card, I've got the Phillies at number 6. I think the Phillies' offense is way too good to not be able to do something like that, and I think Bryce Harper deserves a chance to win a playoff series. He has not won a playoff series in his career. And then my honorable mention is going to be the Milwaukee Brewers. As I said, I don't think they're going to make it. Their offense just simply is not good enough to support their pitching staff. Corbin Burns will win the Cy Young. And I'm going to go into this. This is going to be my last little segment. I know this has been a little bit of a shorter episode compared to last week's. That was 75 minutes. This is 37 as we talk right now. In the AL, I think between the Orioles and the Mariners, the Twins. The Twins will actually lose to the Orioles. I think the Orioles will win that wild card matchup in advance onto the next round to play the Astros, while the Mariners will beat the Blue Jays. I just think the Mariners will have more grit, more heart, and after the last series they just played, I believe the Mariners did win this series. Going into that, Mariners-Yankees, I hate to say it, Yankees will win that one because I would love to see the Mariners win that one. Could be a close one. I think it could go to 5 games in the ALDS. I think it will go to 5 games, but the Yankees will end up winning that one. And then the Orioles, Astros are winning that. All I gotta say, the Astros just got a great team. I hate to say it because I don't like the Astros. Who likes the Astros other than Astros fans? Because they cheated. And you can say they didn't, but they did. They cheated. But they will win that one. Maybe the Orioles get a game, but maybe. And then it will go Astros-Yankees. Astros will win that one. Even though the Astro-Yankee games have been very good recently, I think the Astros will get the upper hand against the Yanks, and they end up winning that game. National League, I got the Cardinals and Phillies against each other. Surprisingly, I don't think that Phillies offense will be able to produce enough against the Cardinals. Because if you look at the Cardinals, are a better, well-balanced overall team. And then Braves-Padres, this is going to be a hard one to choose. But I think since Fernando Tatis Jr. is not in, the Braves take this one. And they move on to play the Mets. While the Phillies, they go on to play the Dodgers. And the Cardinals go to play the Mets. Now, I do think the Braves can beat the Dodgers again. And I do think it will happen in 5. Dodgers will lose to the Braves. They always find a way to choke, other than 2020. And the Mets beat the Cardinals. So it will be a Mets Braves NLCS, which will be really cool to see the 2 NL East teams in there together. But I do think the Mets will win that one in 7. I think it will be amazing. It could be less, but you saw the weekend series where it was 4-1. The Mets beat the Braves. I don't think the Braves will be like that all the way in October because they are a lot better of a team later in the season. But I do think the Mets and the Astros face off in the World Series. And this is where I go into it. Game 1 in Houston will go to Houston. Game 2 in Houston will go to New York. Game 3 in New York will go to New York. Game 4 in New York will go to Houston. Game 5 in New York will go to New York. Game 6 in Houston will go to New York. I think New York wins the World Series in 6 games. Now, granted, this is a very, very early prediction, but I do believe the Mets have the best roster if they don't pull a Met. If they don't pull a New York Mets like they usually do and choke later, I think they have the chance of winning the World Series. Do I think the Astros also do? Yes, but I think if the Astros and Mets meet up, the Astros are not winning. If the Astros and Braves meet up, the Astros are not winning. If the Astros and Dodgers get up, I think the Astros win that. The Astros and Cardinals, I think the Astros will not beat the Mets and Braves. They'll beat everybody else. As for the National League, as I said, I think the Mets honestly would beat anybody in the American League in the World Series. Same with the Braves. Maybe not the Yanks, but we've seen them struggle. If they can get back to their old self, then I don't think any team's beating them. I think the Yankees would win the World Series, but they're not. They're struggling. They're slumping. So that's what I got to say about the playoffs. I feel like I kind of rushed a little bit, but it's okay. I just wanted to get this one out. It's been about 41 minutes. But I hope everybody you enjoyed watching this or listening. And don't forget, the NFL preseason is still going on. Week 2 starts this week. Make sure to tune into a couple games. Watch the Saints, obviously. And tune into the MLB. The season's coming to the end. And it's just something very interesting to see. Check up on your sports. And got any comments, got any concerns, put it in the comment section below. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram at Tello Talks Sports. And I think it's good for today. I'm gonna have a great night with some of the guys downstairs, and it's been a pleasure doing this one. I'm gonna see y'all later. Peace out.